This is my CCVM still, and people keep asking me if I had my time again, if I could start all over again knowing what I know now, would I still build a CCVM? And if so, would I change anything about the design? How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, and this is Still It, the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So, your very first still design. Congratulations if you're thinking about getting into this hobby. It is an absolutely awesome hobby that is insanely rewarding, but there is a very, very steep learning curve to get started, and one of those things that makes the learning curve so steep is deciding on the exact type of still to build. I settled on a CCVM still for a couple of reasons. Number one is that it's easy to make. Other still designs out there can get a little bit more tricky with the soldering and putting different parts together. It's also a relatively cheap build to make because it doesn't include a valve, which can get quite pricey. So before we get stuck into would I change things, I'm going to show you exactly what this still is, what it does and how it works. And then from there, I'll go on to modifications, changes. Would I just scrap it and recommend a totally different still? Let's go. So this is the still in pot still mode, and one of the huge advantages of this design of still is that you can switch between a true real pot still and a reflux still very easily with not a lot of extra parts. So this just goes down to the pot down below. That is another video. We're not talking about the pot and the design of the pot today. But this column here in pot still mode, all it is doing is connecting basically the line arm to the pot, so I don't necessarily need this much height. So the vapor comes up here. There's a cap on the top of the T here, stopping any of the vapor escaping, forcing it all over into the line arm and down through this shotgun condenser. I have to say right now, whatever else you build, I would strongly consider going with a shotgun condenser. This runs 5 tubes through the middle of it that the vapor goes through, and outside those tubes is filled with water. Cold water pumped in the bottom, warm water comes out the top. And the amount of knockdown power that this thing has for only being, 500 mils long is insane. I love it. That's pot still mode, which is pretty easy to understand. I don't think anyone's going to have any problems with this. Let's talk about the reflux design of this column. To put it into reflux mode, we take the cap off the top, we pop this little extension tube on there instead, and then the reflux condenser, in this case it's a coil, goes down inside. We've put the little extension for the reflux condenser on now, and this thing goes inside there. The way this works and allows us to adjust the amount of reflux that we're sending back down the column compared to the amount of vapor we're sending over through the shotgun condenser is the height that we set this coil at. 50% of the vapor is going to try and go up here, 50% of the vapor is going to try and go this way. If we put the condenser above that T, then 50% of the vapor is going to hit this coil, condense, and drop back down the column. If we want more, we start lowering this a little bit, and only a little bit of the vapor can sneak through this arm here. One of the most popular questions I get about this design is how do you stop vapor going out of the top? It's not closed. You're right, it's not closed, it doesn't need to be sealed, because this thing here, any vapor that touches it, as long as you've designed this big enough and large enough, any vapor that touches it is going to condense, and as we all know, water is heavier than air, so it's going to fall back down the column. So, like I said, a super simple design. Does it work? Hell yes, it works. It works amazing. And the best part about it is because I built it in a modular fashion, meaning that it's all put together with tri-clamps and ferrules like this, I can switch parts in and out as I want. I can rebuild it. It's basically like a Lego still. So you want to run plates instead? That's cool. You can get one of these, whack a converter on it for the different size of the column, pop it in, a couple of ferrules to put it all together, and it is super easy. And that is why I 100% suggest that if you're new to the hobby and you don't know exactly the type of products you want to make, you should totally go with this design. If you have the budget and you have the skills to make something more complicated, sure, look at other designs. I'm totally on board with that. Or if you've got the budget just to buy exactly what you want, if you want to spend 5-6 grand on a fancy flute or whatever, cool, I get you. But for most people, I find this is a great design. It's simple and cheap to build. It's relatively easy to run, and it is very adaptive. You can change it up to create the exact sort of product you want to make, no sweat. So what would I change about the build I made? In essence, I would change nothing about the actual CCVM design. It's just that a few things I did, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. It was my first still I'd made. I'd never distilled before. First of all, I didn't do a wonderful job of making this. It works, but it's not pretty. I mean, you can see it ain't pretty. I would like to make it a little prettier, but mostly it's slightly inefficient the way I've done it, and I think I could have used a little bit more copper as well, just to give it a little bit more knockdown power. Hand in hand with that, I would make that extension tube a little bit longer. If I want to run in full reflux, you know, to balance the column at the beginning of a run, for example, it doesn't give me quite enough distance to be able to run at full power with that coil and be able to knock all the vapor back down. Vapor will escape from the top, which reduces the amount of power I can put into the boiler. Another thing that I would have changed is that this column here is a little bit too short to really be getting up to that 95% range. When I do run this, I tend to get about 93, 94%, depending on the ABV in the pot. The plan was to make a second extension, about a 30 or 40 centimeter extension tube that I could pop on here, once again with extra ferrules, to give me that extra height in reflux mode. It turns out that now I've got into this hobby more, I seem to care less about reflux distilling and more about pot distilling, so I've just never got around to it. If I had my time again, I probably would have created that right at the beginning, simply so I had it and I could use it. But I wouldn't have made this just longer, and the reason for that is having the two different lengths means you can have a 30 centimeter column here, or a 60 centimeter column here, or a 90 centimeter column. It gives you more options depending on what you want to do. The only other thing that I've ever thought, what if I would be to make this a larger column, simply for the sake of speed in a reflux run. A wider column is going to give you more speed. You're going to be able to run your column faster, take product off faster. I thought perhaps it would have been nice to have a 3-inch or a 4-inch column, but that's kind of here or there. I hope that answers the question of what I would have done differently if I had my time again with this still, and whether or not I would still recommend this still to people getting into the hobby. I think it is a great design. If I remember correctly, it was Dad 3000? Dad 2000. I can't remember which, on the Home Distiller forum that made this thing popular. I don't think it was his design initially, but I love it. It's great. So if you want more information, I'd suggest jumping on over to the Home Distiller forum and checking that out. Anyway, I hope that helps you out if you're new to the hobby. I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, guys. The reason that I've been able to do this for so long now, 3 years, Jesus, that's crazy. The reason I've been able to keep doing this is because of these people here. So thank you very, very much. If you're finding value in these videos and you'd like to help contribute to the channel, you can jump on over to chasethecraft.com/support, which will tell you all the different ways that you can help out. One of them, if it's right for you, is Patreon. Like I said, I hope this helped a few people out. Keep on chasing the craft, guys. Until next time, see ya.